Good
Hello.
evening. Good evening.
Hello. How you doing?
Hello. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Welcome to another Saturday night Shadow Whispers in the night with Jenny and Nando. I almost forgot my name there for a second. There you go. That's just. I almost forgot my own name for a second.
You're going Lulu, aren't you? You're going crazy.
Oh, it's been a long day. You know, the full
You're still
season.
getting over the weekend of the Parameet, aren't you?
Yes. Yes, I am.
So
Yes, I
you're
am. It's
excused.
a come down from it. It's a come down from it. But here we are, and it's Saturday night, and I keep forgetting what day we're on. It's Saturday night. I keep thinking it's Friday, but it's Saturday. How are you, Nando?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a lovely weekend. Yeah, it's just been a nice weekend. Spent the day with the family yesterday. Football today. It's all good.
How's the football?
Yeah, it's all right. It's not my team, but had to
Who is your
move
team?
down Italy, and they got knocked out miserably. So anyway, let's move on from that. We're not talking
Yes.
football. We're not talking about
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But no, it's been a lovely weekend. Celebrated my birthday yesterday,
Happy
and
birthday.
it was. Do you know what? We didn't really do much yesterday. It was just like I went to my mum's, and it was just nice to chill with the family. My mum, my dad, Sarah, the boys.
Yeah.
And then Monday is the Rocco. We've been talking. Rocco's got a lead part in a school production of Annie.
He's always
And
going. Oh, I always said he's going to be that star. You're going to see him on TV.
do you know what? He gave us a little step by step of a song that he needs to sing on stage.
Wow.
And I felt my eyes welling up. Do you know when you're getting all the puffy and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go and watch him Monday. But yeah, really excited to see that. But other than that, how have you been?
Good. Away last weekend, fantastic weekend at the Parameet, and got home on Monday, and I flew on my own, which is a bloody big thing for me to fly on my own. I never thought the day would ever come that I would fly on my own, and I did. So it was an experience, and I would do it again.
Once you do it the first time on your own, you'll be fine. As long as you've had a G&T and
Xanax.
Your Xanax to calm you down, then you'll be fine.
It was grand. No. I don't know if the pilot was flying the plane or I was flying the plane. No, someone was flying it. And I remember and into Ireland, and I was taking pictures, and I seen this beautiful old building, and I took a picture of it and I sent it on to Louise and said, "Look, I found a new location." Because I'm still taking pictures up in the air, looking for locations. Going over, and Louise said, "Jenny, that's Portmarnock. That's where Louise used to live, in Portmarnock." So she knows it, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I just flew over where he used to live." So we're going to do a quick call out here now before we bring our guest on. Hi, Noreen. How are you keeping? How Miss Willow, my little Irish demon? Thank you so much. Thanks a million. Lawrence, how are you? It's been a while. Lawrence. Iron Fire Horse, how are you? It's been a while as well because I've been in and out, up, doing a lot of stuff. There's Miss Lulu. Mad Lulu. Rita, how are you? Happy birthday to you as well, Rita. We have Lulu here. So we have a fantastic guest on with us tonight, and I had the pleasure of meeting him last weekend at the Parameet. Fantastic talk, and very intrigued in it. Very intrigued. His name is Paul Goddard. I'm going to give a little bit of a readout. There is one word that I can never pronounce, but I'm going to try it. And Nando, if you can say it for me, say it for me, please.
If you can say it, how am I going to say it? I'm just as bad as what you are. Come on, let's try. Let's see how far we get.
Rightio. It's only one word now.
Okay.
So Paul Goddard is a clinical hypnotherapist and a master practitioner of neurolinguist. See, Paul, you're going to have to say it for me when you come on. I swear to God, I know it's really bad, isn't it? Anyway, well, Paul will. I know I can see Paul. He'll say it for me when he comes on.
He'll correct you in a minute.
Right. Programming. So Paul has been practicing since 2010 and has gained a reputation for his work in the past life regressions. He has written for the 14 Times magazine, appeared on local BBC radio, and the popular paranormal show Help My House is Haunted. He gives talks on past life regressions, reincarnation, and motivation. I'm going to need your help, Paul. I'm going to need your help. He has a private practice with many UK clients and some from overseas. He also speaks at paranormal conventions. We do have his website there. They will be up. I'm going to bring Paul in now. There you are, Paul. How are you?
Oh, yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for asking me. It's lovely seeing people in the chat because there's some people I know well, and some names I've not seen for a little while that I've seen on some of lives that I've done before. So that's was wonderful to see everybody here, and thank you, everybody.
Fantastic. Now, Paul, please say that word for me.
Linguistic, so it's neuro-linguistic programming. Even I almost stumbled then. Neuro-linguistic programming.
Linguistic, okay, because I mean, I think the older I get, I don't know what's going on. You know, the older I get, the words come out.
It's fine, you know. I'm dyslexic as well, so I've read out, you know, when I've done the lives and been the host, I've read out loads of interesting comments for people. Probably not what they've actually written because I've interpreted it in the wrong way, but you know, it's still an interesting question to ask the guests.
It is. So if anybody has any questions, throw them in the comments, and I shall bring them up for Paul. Paul, tell us a wee bit about yourself. I know I've read out your profile, but tell us just a little bit how you got into what you do.
Okay, so I got into NLP and hypnotherapy. It was through, I mean, initially the cassette tape, Paul McKenna, Sensational Snooker. I was always kind of interested in hypnosis from a young age, as you heard in the talk. And to begin with, it was to the more stage fun side of things. But then when I actually listened to Paul McKenna discs, cassettes in the early days, I started thinking, you know, this is really good because it helped me with my exam confidence, and I felt very relaxed. It helped with my memory, and also knowing little bits and pieces, particularly when I picked up the book Paul McKenna, Change Your Life in 7 Days. It really helped my own self-esteem, which was something which I did have when I was younger, low self-esteem. So the NLP, which Paul McKenna is heavily involved with, he teaches NLP courses, and the hypnosis, I think both go together very well hand in hand. It really moved my life forward because before becoming interested in hypnosis and actually taking up as a career, I wanted to be a radio presenter and a nightclub DJ. And funny enough, I'm going to be on the radio, just a local one, in a couple of weeks' time. But I really love music, and you know, I did have some success with volunteering in some small radio stations and small nightclubs locally. But I wanted to go to the big sort of super clubs and be over Ibiza, those sorts of things. But I was held back by my fear of rejection. So it was through that Paul McKenna, it moved my life forward. But it was actually my dad that became unwell with cancer, and he started listening to hypnosis discs, and one really made such a big difference to him. He felt so positive. He actually started getting a little more healthier, but unfortunately there were complications that why he passed away in the end. But you know, I think from then I got really inspired to take it up as a career because I loved the feeling of hypnosis, and I like to share that with other people. You know, not like when I was younger, the look how clever I am sort of thing that I wanted to have. It more in the, you know, let's really create some magic in some people's life, because it is a magical feeling going into hypnosis.
I mean, I've spoken to somebody before many years ago about it, and it's something I would love to do, but a little nervous. What would you say to someone who, like me, who's unsure of what I go into, and I know they wanted to do it in line with me, and I didn't know them too well, but I'd have to know them to trust them. What would you say to people that would be a little nervous?
Every single client that comes to me, I do the pre-talk with them, and it's important to realize that hypnosis or hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So you don't ever have control over the client. You help guide your client into that state called hypnosis, which we go into throughout the day anyway. Those of us who drive, we go on what's called automatic pilot. In those circumstances, your subconscious is taken over. So you tap into it anyway. As you're falling asleep, your brain waves will slow down. First of all, the normal waking consciousness beta through to alpha, theta, and delta, you know, when you drift off to sleep. So you're going through those levels anyway. And then when you're coming out of sleep, you're going through those levels as well. So, you know, when you fall asleep, when you're waking up, you're going into hypnosis. Also as well, watching a really exciting film that you're totally absorbed in. Hypnosis happens when your attention goes inwards, and whilst you're watching a film, you know, particularly like an intense bit, and the hero of the film is in trouble and you get your sweaty hands, that it's just actors, but you're in there because you're in a state of hypnosis in that stage. So also as well, because hypnosis is self-hypnosis, no one ever gets stuck in hypnosis, and anyone can just bring themselves out of hypnosis. So whenever I do a past life regression with anybody or any sort of hypnosis, I always say, for any reason you wish to open your eyes, you simply can do, and take yourself out of hypnosis.
Okay. That's reassuring, because I know I was going to do it once and I couldn't do it. I didn't know the people well enough, and I didn't want to do it, and they were very pretty annoyed with me. But I don't know yet, so I'm put under on my chair in the living room. I'm going to give a few calls out here now. Just a few calls. Jeff, how are you doing? I know I'm seeing your messages, but I'm letting our guest speak before I put your messages out. But we do see it, and hello, we hope you're well. Let me see, Louise. That's Louise, who helps me run my team. We have Noreen. Hi, Noreen. How are you keeping? There's my darling Chantel from South Africa. Oh, love her. We were speaking earlier on today, so she's doing well. Thank God, she's doing well. Joanne Stewart, how are you keeping? Hope you're doing great. And there's Jeff. Jeff, we see you. Hello. Hope you're well. Hope you're well. And so when people are going through, say, past life regressions with you, how many sessions would you think that they would need to have? Would it be one, or would there be a few?
Most of the time people just come for one because they're interested, but I have and do have clients that come back for several because they're interested in diving deeper. You also have two groups of people that come for the regressions. The people that come to Parameet and want to have the regression, those are interested and want to discover who they may have been in a previous life. But you also get those that want to use it as a therapy for healing. So when it's for healing, I tend to ask less of the questions, unless I say you want me to do this as well. But because it's for healing, I won't be asking what street do you live in. I just get to what happened and what one can do to move them from that stuck state to a desired state. Sometimes I take people through to a past life, because most of the work that I do for classic hypnosis doesn't involve going into the past, but I do that sometimes. It has to be if what I'm doing with the person isn't shifting as much as we would like. Most of the time you don't need to go into the past, and as a lot of people say that deal with NLP, if you broke your leg falling down some steps, you wouldn't constantly throw yourself down the steps to try and fix the leg that you broke. But sometimes you need to understand, because quite often for people there is what they think is the initial trauma event, but beforehand there's an initial event that happens. So an example of this would be a child is caught in some curtains by an older brother, and the child tries to get out and feels suddenly very claustrophobic, can't get out of it. And then later on, they're in a situation, maybe like a lift, bang, all those feelings suddenly come back that they had from the initial event. Then you've got the activating event as well. So it's important to realize that. So sometimes it's good to do that, to take somebody to the past so they can then view what happened to them under the eyes and the experience and the years of the adult, so that they can then realize that actually I was safe here. And then you end up doing a lot of healing work. And sometimes with that, when you take people to a regression, and it is just regression, I tell people for their subconscious mind to take them to that moment. Sometimes they do just go to a past life, even though I haven't said that at that point. But some people say, I would like to have past lives for healing work. And then you do the same sort of process. I just say, just allow yourself to go to the initial experience that caused what you want to heal yourself from today.
That's really good.
I just want to. Sorry, Jen.
No, go ahead, Nando.
I just want to take it a step back. We were talking about how you personally felt, like, about the worry of rejection and things like that, which is great, the way you've overcome that. But you've also mentioned about being dyslexic. Now, a lot of people shy away from the kind of, like, not just what you do, but open speaking, like public speaking and everything like that, because they know that they see things slightly different. How did you overcome your dyslexia then, and manage that and be confident of what you're doing now, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I still have dyslexia, and I think that the good thing with having dyslexia, it makes you think in a different way. It makes you think outside of the box. Fortunately, when I do the reading here, is quite small, so it's not paragraphs and paragraphs. But I used to be very shy about it at one point. But I think the best thing to do is, if you have something like dyslexia, or whatever it could be, is just to own it and laugh with people when you get something wrong, rather than sort of feel ashamed. I mean, there were certain things that happened at school that didn't really help with dyslexia. Before I changed the school I went into, if you didn't get a certain amount of spellings right, we had to stand up in front of the class, and so many times I was made an example with because I got less than half right, and it didn't help. It didn't push me forward. It just made me feel even worse about it, and then I was worse next time round. But I think that dyslexia is so well known now. It's nothing to be ashamed of, and I just own it, and I feel pleased with thinking outside of the box. I mean, fortunately, we have computers that are very helpful now, and text messages. You've got predictive text, which is much better than what predictive text used to be. So sometimes I will put a word down which I think I've spelt right, and it will be incorrect. But people know that's me. When it's a client, I tend to check a lot more because I want it to be absolutely spot on. So if I'm not 100% sure, I can then put the word what I have spelled into Google and go, no, that's completely wrong. And then, so there's always little tricks and things that you can do, because I'm happy about people knowing I'm dyslexic, but it's also important to be and seem professional to those that want my services.
I always go to Google to spell them, but look at you now. And when I was listening to your speech last Saturday, no, it was actually Sunday. And I remember saying to a friend of mine, I said, look at you now, when you were saying that when you were in school, that you felt like the underdog. And I said to one of my friends, I said, look at you now. Look where you are and look what you're doing. And I'm like, that's not an underdog. And anyone who was being a bully or an arse, will be watching you now. And they probably need your help now. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah, but it's good. And I truly think that NLP and some hypnosis, that just the entry level things that you're taught when you're taking your diploma, because it goes, when you take an NLP, it goes from diploma through to practitioner, through to master practitioner. I think if some of the entry level diploma teachings are given to children in schools, I think that bullying would be halved, maybe even more than halved. There wouldn't be people worrying about their mental health so much, because I think it's building yourself up. I think as well, it's kind of building yourself up and sharing with successes and defeats, because anything in life, you're going to have your setbacks as well. And it's a little bit like, and I heard Jackie Beer, she's written several books. I've got one of hers called Grow, is that it's good to learn some setbacks when you're in school. So it's a little bit like, when you have an injection of a vaccine for something, they give you a little bit of what's harmful to you, so you get stronger. So just kind of know that it's okay to lose sometimes, and it's good to win sometimes, and that everybody has those insecurities. And I think if everybody knows that every single person sitting in class has those same sort of insecurities, I think that then the bullies wouldn't feel they need to bully. The children that get bullied, wouldn't feel bad and have that self-resentment towards themselves. So and it wouldn't take a huge amount to do. It would just be like a little bit of personal development, 10 minutes each morning, maybe even once a week. But I think that little things and repetition is really good, because a lot of what I teach as well, it is a long route to success, but repetition is key. Think about children. They try and walk so often when they're learning to walk, fall over, get up again, fall over again. If that was adults, it'd be like, no, this walking thing's far too much difficulty. I don't agree with this. I think the government should try and to put a lid on this and do something about this walking thing. I'm not going to bother. Crawling's much better. So I think that you can not looking at children.
Yeah, well, that's very true. We need to learn a lot from children who keep trying at it. I just want to give a very quick hi to Michelle here. She's in Tynemouth, Devon, in hospital fighting cancer. Michelle, we send you our well wishes, and we hope You beat this. We hope you beat this. Sending love from Ireland to Nando and Paul as well.
I was just going to say, Michelle, and it's only because only if people want it, I do offer one online session a week for people that have a terminal illness, or giving them an MP3 to listen to. So if that's something you want, it's not for everybody, and I'd never force it on anybody, and I can't guarantee that, you know, what that I'm going to do is going to be like the fix to everything. But I always think if people are willing to give it a go, because I knew that my dad started showing improvements, but he had other complications and things, that's something that I would do. So if Michelle wanted to, there's no cost with it. It's not even donation. It's just completely free because of what my dad experienced. I thought, you know, I want this to be one a week that I put aside free for people.
That'll be fantastic.
Wow,
Michelle, there's Paul Goddard. I have his website as well. I will put your website up as well, that she can contact you or contact you through Facebook, and hopefully she'll do that. So we hope you're going to beat this, Michelle, and love from Ireland and Nando and Paul. Rita, yes. I want to say very goodbye to Rita. Thank you so much. Oh, that's Iron Fire, I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And there's my Lulu. I always call her my Lulu, even though she calls herself Mad Lulu. She helps me run my team. She's fantastic. She's my right-hand lady. Rita, I want to say goodbye to you. Thank you so much for jumping in with us as well. So I know before, I think after I had my daughter, and I remember saying this with you with Paul last weekend as well, that only when I had my daughter at 29 years of age, and that I'm not going to tell you what age she is now, because you'll all get my age. So when which I probably shouldn't have said that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, I think. But yes, when I had my daughter now, and I'm going to say, right, she's 20, right? And but ever since I've had her, I will not put my head underneath water, ever. And I remember when I was younger, I always had dreams of tsunamis, and what the thing is about water. And I remember having another dream where I tied thick rope around my wrist and my children's wrists, and then gave rope to my sister and her husband and her children to tie the rope around their wrists, so when the tsunami came in, that we wouldn't have parted. And I have no idea why that was, because before that I was like, you know, a fish in water. It's just since I had my daughter, and I can't watch anything on TV with water, and you know, I can with water, but not, you know, like Titanic and that movie Tsunami, I forget what it's called. But it took me years before I could watch it, and a very large glass of wine before I watched it. And I've yes, I did, and I've no idea why that just triggered me when I had my daughter.
Well, I mean, I don't usually do this because I'll ask people, but just as everybody's watching now, it could potentially be that when you had your daughter, you were a parent, as you were a parent in that potential past life. So the protection of your daughter kicked in, and that past life memory suddenly came back as a possibility.
Right. Okay. So, oh my God.
When you're doing your hypnotherapy, your past life regression, you know, you're getting people to it in a calm state, and with what I can gather, they're opening their mind to you so they can touch base on what's going on inside. Do you believe that's partly, could there be spirits involved, like connecting that as well? Like, do you believe there's like the paranormal comes in, or is this just all science and you know how to navigate the brain?
Oh, I mean, when I took the NLP certification, it actually has written down, they're all over there at the moment on the wall, but it has the art and the science of neurolinguistic programming. So when you learn NLP, half of what you learn is the science of NLP. The other half is open to interpretation, and some people are very just this world only. Other people have a more spiritual slant on things. Me being me, I kind of go down the slightly more spiritual route, but depending on the client will be depending on how I speak to me. But I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if we have the spirits around us that help us, you know, and for some clients, they talk about spirit guides or angels, and I will put that into the session as well because it's very important. I personally have a spiritual angle, but my belief shouldn't be what I put on the client. So you end up using what your client's model of the world is and adapting your sessions to them. Because I have people phone me up sometimes and say, what do you do for quitting smoking? And I don't have a particular plan because each person has a different reason why they smoke, a different reason why they want to stop, a different reason why they get the triggers for lighting up again. So each client's an individual. So, you know, I could see two people for smoking or different things that they come to. So it could be like eating. So two people have like eating, either eating too much or eating too little, and they want to change that. You know, I won't have like a set plan. I kind of explore it as I'm working with the client. And to be honest, that's why I like working intuitively. And I don't think I could really work in any other way than that.
Do you need to take when you're dealing with different clients and you're dealing with different situations, maybe phobias and things like that, do you also need to take into account their mental health before you go into this? Because some people, like, I'm not speaking for anyone else, I'll speak for myself, and I've always been an open and honest book about my past. I've had a bit of a checkered past in the sense of some things have happened to me where it altered the way I thought and it changed me as a person, which I found very difficult. Do you have to tread carefully when you have clients come in? Do you try and find out what's gone on before you actually start your sessions with them?
I always get every client to read the booking form, and it says if you have clinical depression, epilepsy, or under your doctor's care for any other psychological reasons, you should always seek medical advice before taking part in hypnosis. That's literally to cover yourself so you don't end up getting sued. I have dealt with people with depression, and funny enough, occasionally if somebody has something which is moderate to moving on a bit more severe, I will say to somebody, speak to your GP beforehand. Only one GP has said I can't say or I can't give, I can't give permission, and I can't not give permission. It's up to you. Every other GP that somebody spoke to said yes, it'll be fine. But there are certain things that I do not take. If it was like really severe, that somebody, I'm aware that it's usually you get like sort of any strikes. But if they were going to harm in quite a serious way, I would then look at other options with people. I never have somebody that phones them and go, well, I'm sorry, that's something I just don't take on. You're by yourself. The only time when I actually really give people the dangers of it, because in hypnosis, although it's very good at getting to the subconscious mind and what did happen, there's no way of saying this is 100% truthful, and false memories can happen. And I have had it for a while, but I think about 3 people, maybe a few more, who have phoned up and said they want to be hypnotized because they believe something has happened in their past and they're going to take it to court. You just can't tell. You could end up giving somebody the false memories because the person wants to prove that point. They don't do it consciously, so I'm just going to say so I can get this person in trouble, but they have deep down they'll have a belief that something happened, and people can create that fantasy story. So you could, even if it's rejected, it probably would be rejected, the hypnosis in a court case, but that particular person then has the belief then afterwards that something happened. It may or may not happen, and I wouldn't want that responsibility. I don't think hypnosis is ever used here, but I read a lot of books. Funny enough, my hypnosis now, people on that side, these are more the paranormal ones. There's a couple of hypnosis ones here, but in America it has been used successfully, but it's been some robbers, and they've hypnotized the group of people that were involved to see if there's a similarity coming out from all these different people. I don't know of it ever happening on an individual case, because an individual case there might be other things going on subconsciously to prove a point.
Right, that's it. And there's another question here because I was very intrigued with this one. Dr. Ian Stevenson.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was very intrigued with that one too because I've had an experience of that with a young child, and he was fascinating. I mean, fascinating. So he would use past life regression with children as well because they, we know this as reincarnation and so on and so on. And I'll give you a very quick rundown. I mean, we always laugh when we say, Jenny, long story short, in an Irish way, never is sometimes. I'll make it as quick as possible. There was a young boy that I knew many, many, many years ago, and I'd say he was about 7 or 8 years of age. And he had never met his granddad. And he would say, granddad loved these sausages and so on and so on. So it's probably not the past life regression. It's just that he knew his granddad, but he'd never met him. And when he was saying goodbye to me one day, he said, "Bye, Jenny, see you in heaven." And I was like, I'm so glad you didn't say the other way down. We're good with that.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, "Bye, Jenny, I'll see you in heaven," and thank the Lord Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what he said to me. And then a dog that I had owned who lived in this house, they were left in the conservatory because, this dog, a collie, absolutely wanted this boy, wanted him badly, aggressively. And he's a very friendly, calm, lovely dog. And if I didn't see what I saw, I wouldn't have believed it. So I was in the house one day and the family was there and then the boy was there. I could see his spit on the glass and his teeth banging against the glass. Like, I've never seen him react the way he did. And I'm like, Blue, his name was Blue. And I'm like, what's happening? So I'm going into him to see if he's okay. And closed the door behind me, sliding door. And he just wanted this boy. Like, he was not giving up. One day, that same day, the sliding door he pushed it with his nose. And there was about 10 people in the living room. He beelined for that boy and bit him on his thigh, the back of his thigh. And he wanted this boy, no reason at all. And I'm thinking, what did this boy have? What did he have that this dog, who's a very placid, friendly dog with everybody, wanted this boy only? And then he said to me, "Bye, Jenny, see you in heaven." And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. So would anything have been attached to him? He's a boy, but he's someone else?
I take it he was okay in the end.
He was okay. He didn't break the skin. He did a blood bruise up. He didn't bite the skin. Wearing his tracksuit or whatever. And he did break it a little bit, but not a chunk of him, if that makes sense. Not a chunk. He did bruise him badly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, bruised him. Yeah. So I'm thinking, I've never forgotten that.
No.
Yeah, that was like, I don't know. It was a little bit. What do you think, Nando, on that?
I'm not sure.
It was surreal to see. If I didn't see it, I wouldn't have believed it. I would just hear the story. But he was my dog, and I rescued him when he was 8 weeks of age, and he would have been about 5-6 years at this stage. Maybe actually younger, 3 or 4. And I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it. But he wanted this boy. What do you think, Paul?
So where was the rescue dog? Did you know his background beforehand?
He was 8 weeks of age when I rescued him. So he was a baby. He was from a rescue center. He was a baby. So he was 9 weeks of age. So
I'm just wondering if something unpleasant happened to the dog. Maybe the boy was dressed similar to either the person that did any horrible act to the dog, or perhaps there was a boy very similar that was around at the time where an adult was doing something. So, but then again, it could be related to a past life. It's a shame. If only animals actually. Bethany Crowler, the pet psychic. She would be the person if there's a photograph of the dog.
Oh, really?
She'd probably be able to get some. Yes, she had an amazing Channel 5 documentary fairly recently. The Pet Psychic, wonderful lady. I've done a regression on her as well, and she's a brilliant psychic, and she is a psychic anyway. But one of her USP, her unique selling point, and what people are so drawn to her is that she reads and can communicate to animals. So she will look. She'll either be next to the animal, or she can do it through videos and through photos, and be able to say, what the animal's feeling, experiencing. On her television program, there was Ham the Duck, who was very depressed because he lost his partner, the other duck, the partner. And what Beth picked up is that the lady was saying that owned him, oh, he's not eating anymore. And she was able to pick up, well, he says you've changed the food, so it was actually the food that he changed, and he didn't like it. So you can pick up all sorts of different things. And Beth always says as well, people say, oh, no, I don't believe in any of that to her sometimes. And then 5 minutes later, they've got their phone open and showing pictures of their dog because they really want to know what the dog is saying. So I reckon, Beth, if you're watching this, Beth, that would be amazing.
I will be contacting you. I work with rescue animals here in Ireland, and I work with rescue animals, and I've got 4 dogs, 3 cats, 2 goldfish called Fish and Chips, and so I have. I would love that. I would love that even with my own dogs, and some are not alive, some have passed away, but my goodness, I really would be contacting Beth and to show her a picture of my recent dog who passed away and seeing if he's okay and whatnot. And I even wear his ashes around my necklace that I'm wearing now. So I would love that to make sure he's okay. And yeah, so Beth, I will be contacting you. I will be. I've got about 9 cremated animals in my living room. I know that's who I am, but I do. And I do love that. But I don't know what Mr. Blue now, because he's only ever been around me and friends, but he's never been without me.
Yes.
So I don't know what it was with this boy. So when Dr. Ian Stevenson was doing his past life regression with children, would that have been from reincarnation?
So yeah, these children have spontaneous past lives. So quite often, with the children that Dr. Ian Stevenson spoke to, their memories would be quite fresh still. They didn't need to go into hypnosis because they were already saying their stories anyway. And these children, sometimes they would talk about their other mother, and sometimes some of these children, if it was a traumatic experience and passing, they would have scars, marks on them, sometimes missing fingers if it was involved in but these children could say, I lost this limb because there was a child born without fingers. His fingers were removed in a fodder chopping machine in India. And in the neighboring village, the child was born that reincarnated from this child who lost his fingers. And when Ian Stevenson's team pointed in a direction and found the family, he was instantly able to pick out what would have been his elder brother at that time and his mother. And he was able to spend time with both families, a little bit like children do when there's a divorce. They spend weekends with the father. So he was going off and doing that, and they welcomed him in. Ian Stevenson often said that the more traumatic the death was, the more it would be likely to be remembered in the past life, in the next life. But he always sort of made sure that he got to the case very early on, so that he could speak to the child before they started hearing from the adults what the adults would be talking about it. And he had about 2,500 with Jim Tucker, who also joined the investigations later on. They're about 2,500 cases together. Dr. Jim Tucker is still continuing Dr. Ian Stevenson's work, but he travelled all over. And although Ian Stevenson had his skeptical hat on, his believing hat, he said that there's good, strong case for reincarnation. In some of the cases he's had, it's the most compelling reason and what these children are experiencing. But he found that these children, you could just go and talk to them. So he always had an interpreter. Sometimes an interpreter would be needed, but he made sure that the words were taken down very succinct to what the child was saying. And also as well, the interpreter could put things down like how the child was looking, and when they made the notes. So when the child was talking about a particular experience, they could say they look fearful at this, or they look happy talking about this. And those sorts of things were also put into the notes. So he made sure that as much detail was there. And it's always said of Ian Stevenson that he had the care and attention of these cases. It was like he was almost going in for a court case because he didn't really make sure that you'd get all the details down. So yeah, it's great, his work, Dr. Ian Stevenson. He does have some videos on YouTube, some times of him going and speaking to the children. So I have a lot of time for the He's passed away now.
I was listening to a talk now on Sunday, and it was captivating. It was fantastic. It really was. Because I do love, I'm very much into the past life regression and reincarnation. And do you think, and reincarnation, those who have a choice to come back, or you don't have a choice and you just come back, and you have snippets of your former life, but then as you get older, you forget it?
I tend to listen to what my clients say. There are certain similarities that do come out. Some clients say, the majority of them tend to say that they send themselves back. I've never actually had, through, some people say it just happens. I've never had anybody that says we have to keep reincarnating until we've reached a certain amount of enlightenment. Some other religions say you reincarnate, I think 6 times is mentioned in some of them. And then when you've done those 6 times, then that's it. You don't reincarnate anymore. I make sure when I'm hypnotizing people that I never plant any questions, because I have seen it on YouTube, and that it's, each person has different ways of doing it. But as I sort of said during my talk, when anybody's in hypnosis, a deep level of rapport has been built up between yourself and the client hypnotized, or vice versa, client and the hypnotist. And in those stages, sometimes the client that is hypnotized just wants to please the hypnotist. So I have seen it before where somebody has then passed over and they sort of said, and now it comes to the moment when you go into another room and you meet your guides. Describe the guides to me. That is planting a suggestion in my view. So I make sure just say, move forward. What's happening now with any experiences? So sometimes I say send it back, and just say, they basically, some of the clients have said to me that as a spirit, they miss the physical side that human reality gives you, like the touch, the connection that is there, the love, but not the physical sensations. The other thing which has come through quite a few times is when people go back, because most of the time I'll just do one life with someone, but sometimes I have clients and they've lived to the age of 6. You can't really get an awful lot of information out with just living to the age of 6. So I will then take them through to another life, either the next life or another one that they choose to go through. And one that has happened a few times, quite a few times, is people say they see these funnels, and when it's like the soul then jumps into the funnel and then straight through to the next life. And whenever a client says that, it's not all the time, but it has come out quite a few times. My eyebrows always lift up, because some of the children used to say, jumping through a hole and then I was here. So I think, that's really interesting that there's that sort of collaboration between some of Dr. Ian Stevenson's work and some of the clients that come to see me.
That's crazy, because I know a friend of mine, sorry, Nando, very quickly, a friend of mine said if he's ever reincarnated again, because he's been reincarnated a million times, he will just feck the bucket them. Penny, I'm not coming back to this life again. So I was like, yeah, okay, get that. But I think I heard as well that that if you're not settled when you leave, you have that choice to come back to make things right.
Yeah, I think that's why some spirits remain in places, to have the unfinished business. And again, some clients have said they want to make things right. Not all of them say it. So it's I just kind of keep exploring. There is certain things that come through a few times. Sometimes people, when they pass over, see a bright white light, and that does happen fairly often. But the majority of people tend to have a sense of themselves lifting up as they're crossing over, and it's not so much the bright white light, which everybody sorts of say. So that's really interesting. So I always find that when you get into this sort of work in the past life questions, you'll end up having more questions then you have answered. But sometimes that's more exciting and fun that way.
Yeah, that's it. And I know Lulu has asked a question here. What do you think? Can you ask Paul what he thinks of people who may think they are star seeds?
Well, I haven't really come across that, but I'm not somebody who would dismiss it. I have had people that have had all sorts of different things. I mean, I have had people being animals in the past. I've had people that have claimed to be of an alien race before coming to this life. So I think for each individual person is to know your own truth. And if somebody wants to explore that with me, I would explore it with them. But I never sort of would say I know all the answers. And I think if it feels right to somebody, all the people that come to me are very... I've never met somebody who I thought I better not hypnotize them because I think they could be, every single person, even the really kind of more unusual past lives or the alien experiences that people have had, because I've had people that have seen UFOs and booked me because they want to get, some experiences from it. And a lot of the people that I see don't go through to the classic alien abduction. I just, again, tell people to go forward in time because, like when I was saying to you, Roy Hunter had the experience. Roy Hunter wrote the book, several books, but The Art of Regression Therapy and a load of others. But somebody led him and he had a UFO experience after something which was just a near-death experience. So with that, I make sure that I don't lead somebody. So if somebody had the experience of that and felt it within them, I'm more than happy to sort of explore with, guiding, not leading the client.
Yeah, that's it. Nando, you're going to say something there and I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. I was just going to ask, when you're doing like the past life regression, your clients, are they aware of what they're saying, or is it something that you got to feed back to them? Like, what's their mindset? Are they in like a sleep state when they're walking through? Or, what is the process when they're doing that?
The majority of people, 999 people out of 1,000, they'll be aware that they're in the chair. They'll be aware that they're experiencing past life memories. And there is amnesia that happens naturally through hypnosis. So think about when you've had a dream and you're coming out of the dream and you're trying to remember the dream afterwards, and it's going. And if you don't write it down or really think about it and just turn over and go back asleep, you probably won't remember much of it the very next day. So that tends to happen in hypnosis. I will plant the suggestion that whatever they've experienced in the hypnotic state, when it's been regression, they will remember it with crystal clear clarity. So I put that suggestion to help. But that's why whenever I have clients, I make sure that I video record it, I mic people up, because quite often people speak quite quietly. So by being mic'd up, the mic's close to their mouth, so you can actually pick up what's being said. So people can watch back the recording afterwards, because as I mentioned in the talk we did for Parameet, there's something called pareinesia, which is crediting more evidence than what's actually there. So people can watch back their recordings afterwards and know exactly what they've said. But I said 999 people. It will be, they're very much aware that they're in a chair and they're hypnotized. But I have had, at one point, my answer would have been, nobody ever goes to a strange place. But, very, very occasionally, people do experience it and it's very real. So I have slightly changed the way I answer that, because I have experienced it before. People at least claim to me that it really felt like they were there. It's very rare it happens. I think once every few years, something like that will happen, but it does happen.
And do you believe that, with any of these sessions, do you believe it's actually switched over from, it's not actually their past life, a spirit has managed to come forward and they're reading off their life, but not actually the client's life? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a complete possibility, because it could be the fact there is some sort of channeling going on, or that it is extrasensory perception. It could be that they're tapping into the field that's out there. They say about the Akashic records, and that people are tapping into that. So I think that that's the reason why I like the talk, and why I went more in depth, because every single talk I always talk about the non-paranormal interpretations that Dr. Ian Stevenson has, and the paranormal interpretations of what's going on with past lives with Dr. Ian Stevenson. And I think it's so important to know the spectrum. And I think personally for myself, I think that it might be all of them. It could be sometimes that it is just like from the bottom of the scale, that it's like a fantasy or metaphor, then going up to it being cryptonesia, then going up to the paranesia will just be what you credit afterwards. But then the genetic memory, which I spoke about, potentially it is the channeling, potentially it is the ESP, maybe it is the reincarnation. So I think that we have like a scale. And when you're working with the paranormal, most of the time it's not like a Faraday cage you can put somebody in, it is or it isn't. It could be a whole load of different things. But again, I make sure that I put down in the booking form that people have that, you know, there is debate whether past lives are real or not. I make no claim either way. But with that, if you're happy to experience what may well be a past life, I will take you through to that experience and see what we go. But it's always very important when you do that you're aware of people's emotions. I will go to sort of places in the past life that maybe some hypnotists wouldn't go, like, you know, the death experience. I know some people do past life, they just don't touch that at all. But I think it's good to have the closure of somebody's life, and watching people as well. And I've had loads of times people say to me afterwards, do experience themselves passing over as somebody else they may have been in the past life, or whether they're picking up from spirit, that it has relieved their fear of death. Because I've had people that have come because they've been interested, but they've been really fearful because somebody they've loved has passed away in very tragic circumstances, and they've had a slight fear of death. And then experiencing that, people said that's disappeared, but with a new vigor, you know, for life and moving forward in a positive way. So that's a great compliment when people say that to me.
That's good. And I think there's some that has a great fear of death and some that don't. I remember when I was younger, I had the biggest fear of death. I was crawling the walls in my own mind about death, because it's something you can't get away from. And it feared me forever. And I think when I've seen someone pass in a while ago, and I experienced it for myself. And I've watched her reach her hand up in the air talking to people. And my family was looking at me saying, Jenny, don't have a recorder with you. Because I'm like, Mommy, who can you see? Who can you see? You know, don't kind of do it. But it was different emotions on it. And I was going to ask you as well about when people have passed away, say when you're doing past life regression with them, they tell you about their death experiences. And have they ever given a former name that it could be looked up?
Well, Steve Mulligan and Annette, sorry. Yes, she has. There's Steve Mulligan. That was probably the more compelling one. I mean, there's lots of people that have said to me, I've come across this person, but the Steve Mulligan one was a live experience. Lots of people said that afterwards and sent me the links of Steve Mulligan, and he was Sidney Sutcliffe in a past life, or at least that's what the experience was coming through, whether it was through spirit or other means. I fully trust and respect Steve, you know, and I knew that he's a very genuine person. But so much information was found out online about it. Now people say, well, the trouble is that's online, but there were so many things that he said during the regression that you can't find online, that wouldn't be available. The things that happened in the home life, the fact that he was on stage with his father, Arthur, so Sidney Sutcliffe. So those that don't know the story, Sidney Sutcliffe was shot down over Cambrai in France in the First World War. He was a lieutenant in the Flying Corps, and he was explaining about his childhood living in Llandudno. Steve always felt a connection with Llandudno and could find his way around even as a child. And he said in hypnosis, because I did an online session with him that was broadcast live on the Paradox Facebook group, that he was Sidney Sutcliffe. And it wasn't just those bits. So like the home life, which if somebody came forward and said this did happen, that would make an incredibly compelling case. Also, with something I didn't mention during the live is that Sharon, Steve's girlfriend, they both went off for a few days to Llandudno to look at some of the sites and places that Sydney and his family would have been to.
Mm-hmm.
Steve found out and actually said during the regression that they lived in a house called the Nook in Llandudno. Sharon was driving, Steve was passenger, and Sharon was following the sat-nav. Steve suddenly said, "You've got to turn here, haven't we?" And Sharon said, no, it's straight on. And they carried straight on. The sat-nav took them a long way around. If they had listened to Steve in the first place and turned where Steve said, you would have taken them directly to Sydney's Sutcliffe's old house. So that's incredibly good as well.
It's a big thing.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. I love that. What about people who, when they have scars or birthmarks on their body, that they thought that's how they were killed?
Yes, I'm not. I think I had one or two. I'm just trying to remember. But a lot of these people, so I've been doing this since 2010. So some of them are quite old. I know I've had some people that have said they've got marks on them which are related to. I'm trying to remember because I've done quite a lot of them now. But Ian Stevenson looked into this as well, the birthmarks, and a really interesting thing that he noticed as well. If a child said they had been shot, say in the chest, and they said the bullet went out through their body, Ian Stevenson would find another birthmark on the back that would be larger than the one on the front, because when you're shot and the bullet passes through, the exit wound is bigger than the initial entry wound. Right. So yeah, that's good stuff. Well, not good stuff for the person who got shot in the past life, but good stuff in evidence for it being past lives.
That's fascinating, and I know, like, I have birthmarks, but I mean, they're in places that I don't think that would have killed me. I have one on the inside of my thigh. I don't know. My daughter has one on the back of her leg, so I just don't know. And sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that reminds me. It doesn't have to be related to death, because Ian Stevenson, if somebody said they were in a tribe, quite often the chieftains would have different piercings on their ears depending on how they were in the tribe. And some of the cases he's taken photographs of the children's ears, and you can just see little white marks on the ears which would have been related to where these earrings would have been. Or piercings.
We know it, and it's absolutely fascinating. And another question I was going to ask as well, because I have a question here from Lulu. The question I want to ask you about countries where people have lived in foreign countries. And I know my place, and I've always said it was Italy. Italy was my place. I know when I went on holidays, I went for a wedding, and I didn't feel like I was in a different country. I felt like Jenny's home. Ireland was a different country to me, but I'm home in Italy. I remember sitting at the airport crying because I was leaving, and it wasn't because I was getting onto a plane. It's because I did not want to leave Italy. I walked the streets like I knew.
You just know it's the best country ever. That's why. Let's be honest. Just want to throw that in there.
And I walked Florence, and I looked at my hotel window, and I seen a woman beating like a rug with over the line, and then calling the dog, and I was in this beautiful, it was for a wedding, so I was in this beautiful monk's monastery. If I had have known then what I know now, I remember my friend telling me they were sleeping in the monastery, and that she felt there was someone standing over her. But apart from all of that, I felt like Italy was my home. The food, the wine, everything was not new to me. Everything was as it was. And I'm taking pictures like I lived there. And I remember doing a show one night with a couple. And when I look back in the show, sometimes when I was talking about Italy, a female voice came in. Don't know exactly what she said, but it definitely wasn't one of us, because we were not talking at the time. Or if we were talking, this third woman came in. So I don't know. So how do you feel about that? People living in
Well, with the voice, that happened when I was with Hair-Go-Ray, Kate Hair-Go-Ray.
Yeah.
It sounds like tell her. I mean, first of all, I thought it said don't know, but there's definitely a point during the regression when she says, I do feel like I'm very old, even though she was like only in her 40s at that time, but she had a very hard sort of life years and years back. And then you hear when she's talking about how happy her life was, like a tell her. So I'd be really interested, because I remember us talking about that, to hear that recording. But, you know, I think that there is a possibility, if people feel a real deep connection to somewhere, like Steve Mulligan had not so much deja vu, but knew his way around. Llandudno, and his mum would say, how do you know that? As he would say, oh, I could take you there as a child, you know, with his family. But I know that potentially it could be because Jane, the lovely Jane Rowley from Haunted Antiques and all that, I hypnotized her online because she had a deep connection with the Isle of Wight, and where Queen Victoria lived. And she had what could have been a past life that came out during the session of being like a maid. It's been a long time since I've seen that one, so I have to watch that one again. But, you know, she had the experience of that. So it could well be that one of your past lives was connected. I think that's quite a strong possibility, or some sort of spirit that's maybe one of your guides or something, if you believe that, had a connection, and that's why you're getting it through. It could be the genetic memory as well. I mean, do you have any history that you know of in your family of being out in Italy at all? Because that could be a possibility as well.
None so far. Like, we did, myself and Neil had done my family tree, and it's all in Ireland. Nothing in Italy, all in Ireland.
It's funny you say that about, like, what you're saying, Jenny, about Italy being your home, and then what you're saying, how you relate. Because I never forget, I took Sarah when it was our first year wedding anniversary, and Sarah had always wanted to go to New York. Like, she had this thing about New York and wanted to go, and we went for the first time together, and we literally didn't know our way around, you know, so we were just like trying to get our bearings. But we got to Times Square, and I wanted to go to Madison Square Gardens to go and see a basketball game. So I was like, look, we need to work out. And Sarah, and no way of lying, and Sarah would vouch for me next time we talk to her. We were stood in the middle of Times Square, and you got like these two roads, one going left, one going right. And Sarah's like, we've got to go this way. And like, we're walking and walking. And I was like, Sarah, you ain't got a clue where you're going. Let's just go and ask someone. And I kid you not, she was just like, just trust me. I don't know why. Just trust me. And do you know what? Before we knew it, she was outside Madison Square Garden. And I was just like, that's crazy. And she was like, she's never been to New York before. And she did the same when we wanted to find Central Park as well. She would not ask anyone, but she had that, I don't know, she calls it like a pigeon radar. But she just knew where she was going. And I just could not work out. So do you think that that's a possibility, that she might have lived a life in New York before she lived?
It sounds like a very strong possibility, particularly as well. Steve Mulligan had a similar experience, and the level of detail that came out with Steve Mulligan's past life. So maybe with Sarah, if I was to do the regression, yourself, Jenny, you know, there may be the same level of detail, because it could be, and seems like there's something from that past life that was so strong that there is some memory coming through, you know, for you.
Like, even when they talk the language, I have no idea what they're saying. But in my mind, I know what they're saying, but I don't know what they're saying, if that makes sense.
They're just most probably saying what pasta dish they have when they get home that night.
That's
most probably what they're talking about.
Probably. How was your pasta birthday cake?
But that's amazing. And what's your thoughts on astro projection then? You know, because that's I know it's slightly different to what you delve into, but you know, I've heard stories where people are saying that they go to bed and they're able to see themselves in bed. Is that saying that their body's dead and they're out of their body, or what's your thoughts on astro projection?
Well, I mean, either not that they're dead, but you know, it might be. I know that some people have actually snore, you know, quite loudly. Because my dad actually, before he passed away, and this was before he became unwell, had visions of himself looking down on himself in bed. I went to when I was at school. Our class had a basketball team. I wasn't good enough to be in it, but the one of the really good people, the tall kids, he was really tired during one of their going towards the semi-finals, and he kind of remembered at one point shouting to everybody, because he was like the team leader, defend, and he suddenly saw himself like from where the people were sitting watching the game, himself from the third person, only for a few seconds. So I think some of it could be to do with tiredness. So again, that's something that I'm incredibly interested in, and you know, although I'm known for past lives, and I use hypnosis as well to help people. I'm always really fascinated to use it to explore, because I think it can be used for really great interest in studies. Because you know, as long as you're not doing something that's going to be harmful to somebody, but just to explore, because the possibilities are kind of endless. I mean, that there's certain things that I have learnt in the stage hypnosis. I did take stage hypnotism just to learn more about hypnotism. Right. Yeah. It wasn't anything that I particularly thought I'd really want to take up as a career, but you can give people negative hallucinations, so they don't see a particular something that's there or person.
Okay.
And I know that one hypnotist once actually, I heard about it, had a clock and stuck it behind somebody who they said had disappeared and wasn't there, and the person that was the volunteer leant forward, looked at this person and leant forward again and really scrutinized their eyes, and was able to tell the time of what it was. And it wasn't just like, well, we started this experiment at 2:00, so it must be about 2:15. It was kind of the person had twisted the clock so that it would be at a random time and got it right. I mean, I've got, you know, so little things like that, you know, I'd be interested in trying it again. With all these sorts of things, you could do it to 1,000 people, and probably 1 in 1,000 that it'll be happening to. But I think just because it didn't work once, repeat the experiment. And I tend to find the more really obscure things happen are the people that have had a lot of paranormal activity happen, and more strange coincidences that have happened in their life. And then that way, the belief is built up. So part of the hypnosis project is getting somebody's belief that it will happen, you know, for them. You know, if you do it, somebody go, this is silly, this isn't going to work. It really, you're on an uphill battle. But if you've got somebody who believes it could work, and then you build on that belief during the hypnotic induction, deepening, and what you say to them beforehand, then some incredible things can happen.
That's fascinating. I definitely want to do it, but I will talk to you privately about wanting to do it. But I definitely do want to do it. There's another thing I wanted to talk about, is about out-of-body experiences. Like, I remember one time, I don't know if I had it or not, I can't remember. All I know is, like, when I was younger, we had bunk beds. I was on the top bunk, and I was saying goodbye to my mum, and I was saying goodbye to my twin. And I woke up with a sore throat. I was so upset. But when I was standing in my front garden, and it was a long front garden, there was men in black suits, all standing like a chessboard, you know.
Wow.
But their faces were white, and they had black bowler hats on them. But they were all standing. I don't know, was it just a dream? I don't know. I have no idea. But when I was saying goodbye to my mum and my twin, and I was going through the clouds were flat, like it was my ceiling. My hand wouldn't go through. So
that's weird. Yeah.
There's Jennifer's dreams. You know, these men were standing in my mum's front garden, and they were placed as if they were in chess pieces. So there was, say, 4 at the front, and then at the second row, they're placed like a chess piece, all in black suits, white shirt, black tie, bowler hat, but their faces were blank. So I have no idea. It's probably just one of Jenny's crazy dreams. I don't know.
Well, that's something we can explore.
I hope so. But I couldn't go through the sky, the clouds. I couldn't go through it. Yeah, you know, Jennifer's dreams. I don't know. I dream of tsunamis. I dream of fireballs coming from the sky, and I've seen from my mum's house across the road to an old unused factory where you could see the darkness of the water, but the white suds of the waves that they're so tall, they're higher than the building, and we're beginning to come in. And that's why I had tied all of our arms together. That's why I haven't put my head underneath water for love nor money. And I remember doing a thing called Hellfire. Oh no, not Hellfire, Hell and Back. And the first thing was the ice bath. So you have to jump into it. There was a row of car tires, and you have to go underneath the water and up through the other side. And my team was, standing there. Come on, Jenny, you can do it. You can do it. And I said to the guy, I cannot put my head underwater. I can't. I'm going to have to get out and walk around. And he said, put your face through the car tires. Well, I think the car tires was giving birth to my face. I had car tire marks on my face and each cheek. So I could not put my head underwater. I mean, get out and walk around, or put my face through car tires. And that's what I did. I just won't do the water.
That you even tried, that's very brave of you. I mean, myself, I kind of think, no, I don't think I'll do something like that. I mean, for me to go through ice underneath those tires, and I don't mind water. I love water an awful lot. It would be a cold day in hell before I would ever do anything like that.
Times that day, going through electric wires while you're still wet, and you have to be on your oh my goodness, it was called Hell and Back, and it was like an army camp. You're lying and you're kind of going through mud swamps, and you're lying on your stomach going across these lines of electric wires where you're zapped a few times. I remember wearing a hat. It came over my eyes, and I was going sideways, which meant I stayed in my electric lane longer than what I should have. I should have gone straight out. And then we're in water again, pulling ourselves over. So water I do like and I do enjoy, but my head going underneath, it's never happening.
Yeah. I mean, I had somebody who went on to the Titanic, and I know that so many people say, well, the Titanic is such a famous story, but, I mean, there were a lot of people on the Titanic, but this lady who was on the Titanic, and she drowned. She was a stoker, or she said, I can't remember if she said stoker and it was a fireman, or vice versa. Right. But I know that she was in engine room 3, and she had the experience of drowning as somebody else in a past life. And just by reliving it, and there wasn't really any healing work. I mean, this was quite early on in my past life regression career work. But even just experiencing that, she lost the fear of putting her head underwater. She would shower, but she wouldn't like getting her head wet. She would just have it going down onto her chest that she felt comfortable with.
I did that too. I did that too. There's a question up here from Louise, from Miss Lulu. How many past life experiences have you came across with one individual?
Oh, blimey. I think somebody came for 6, because they're really interested and they have the money. So I think that's probably out of the ones that I've experienced time and time again with a particular person. I think it was 6. I'm just trying to remember now exactly. I'm sure it was 6. I think they had more past lives than that, but they just wanted to explore more because they were fascinated with it, and that's what that individual wanted to do. Some people, because I start off with the doors, and I say the doors will each experience a life back that you've had before this one. Okay. I do other sorts of inductions, and when I've spoken to people afterwards, they feel there's a real sense that each of the doors will lead to a different life, and each of the doors represents a different life they've had. I've had people that have had just like 2 doors, even 1 door once. Other ones say it just keeps on going. It's hundreds of doors. So it's, some people, they claim hundreds of past lives. Other ones sort of 2. The average people sort of say there's usually about sort of 6, 7 doors that they can go through. But I've had people that have had a lot more than that.
Wow.
That's a lot. My dog is snoring in the background, if you can hear her.
I'll put the dog into sleep now.
She doesn't sleep. And she's noisy when she sleeps. Another question from Miss Louise. Have you had anyone project a future life or predict future events to the current life during hypnosis?
Well, yes. I mean, it's something I'll look into more. And if people say that that's what they want to do, and I will say a theory about this personally myself as well after. But Pat Cooper, she had a past life, and it's on my channel. It was on her channel, but she changed and does urban exploring now. But I took her to her life, and it was actually, we started off, it was 2010. I was like, okay, that's really interesting. But I went along with it. I took her back and took her forward. But she said that she was someone who may have been living now. I mean, some people did send me some shots of who she might have been, but there were two people that could have been this person. But I just took her to like the time scale of what it was now, because I thought, if we did tap into somebody's life, and if you could go forward and have a prediction, if it was found that this individual didn't have a very happy ending to their life or something really bad, if they ever did get to hear about it, because they said that this person, they were like a solicitor, a lawyer type person, I thought, how awful would that be, knowing that you've got something horrendous that might happen to you. There is, and I have got books about future lives, and this is only, and you know, I will always do whatever, but I kind of feel like with future lives, and this is a personal experience, and everybody should have their own experience. My personal experience should never be what other people think, but what I have theory behind it, and it is just the theory, is that with past lives, you can tap into exactly what has happened to somebody, or it could be like sometimes with the Rosie and Jim experience. For those that haven't seen Rosie and Jim, I had somebody with their husband on the canal. What are your names? Rosie and Jim. But you know what happened in the past life was actually quite compelling, would fit in with what people's life was like on the canal at that time. So maybe it's not just fancy, it might be a combination of both. But I think if you can tap into it like Steve Mulligan's, it is what has happened. When you go future lives, I think it's a little bit like the weather. Now, if you have like, because I love watching things about the weather, and I subscribe to the Met Office. As you go into the future, the more unpredictable it becomes. So I think that with the future lives, there is a load of possibilities of what could happen, but the further you go out, the more unreliable it becomes. So it's a potential of different realities that could happen. You know, that's personally what I think. And I think when you do future lives, you are tapping into something else, because Ian Stevenson, when he investigated the children with the spontaneous past lives, he never had a child that says, in the year 24,000, you know, it was never talking about going forward. So that's kind of what that's my personal belief in it, that past lives have happened, the future lives, a possibility that's happened, even though some scientists think everything that's ever happened, everything's going to happen, or happen at the same time anyway. But then you're delving into a whole load of different things here.
A lot of different stuff. That's what Lulu's saying. Interesting mix of free will too, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a great question here as well from Sarah T. Is it possible that in a past life you could have been the mother of your current mum?
Oh yeah, it has happened, and that's come out quite a lot of times. It was, I don't think it was Ian Stevenson, because I have come across a lot of stories, and sometimes, you know, if it's one of Ian Stevenson's or somebody else's, sometimes they can get mixed up, because I have looked at quite a few stories before I choose which one's going to talk about during talks and things. But I do remember there was an experience where a girl, or was it a boy, but basically the child was spanked by her mother, and the child then turned around and said, and when you were the child, I never spanked you, and was really quite cross about it. So, you know, there are plenty of stories around of children, you know, then being the adult in another life, and vice versa. So it all swaps around like that.
Oh Lord. I didn't know that. Oh, goodness. Okay. There's a lot to think about. I had a question there in my mind, and it's completely gone out of my head.
It's what you remember it.
I've got a question, if it's all right.
Yeah, go for it, because I'm thinking of my one here. Sorry.
You know, we're talking about stuff that you're doing, you know, with your clients and the way you help them, you know, but like me, Jen, we do a lot of paranormal research. We do a lot of investigations, you know, trying to document our spirit's real, our location's really haunted. how can you use your work that you do in a paranormal investigation? Like, can you use your hypnosis to hypnotize someone in a potential haunted location to try and connect with spirits? Have you done it?
Yes. So, I mean, what has been seen recently on the repeat on TV is when I hypnotized Barry Guy on Help My House is Haunted to go back in time, tapping into that place memory of the building in 1825 in the episode The Chapel of Unrest. I have at St. Bevil's Castle, Jane House booked me for one of her public events. One evening, I got people to tap into the spirits and the life of what happened and who was there. I think it was the name Mary came up quite a few times with people that were in that. So I had everybody sat down in that circumstances, because I did have, it was either 20 or 30 people, depending on the group at one go. And you want to keep control of it. You don't want 30 people wandering around the place potentially with their eyes closed and things like that. So yeah, I it's something I wish to do, and lots of people say, "Oh, could you join us on our paranormal investigation?" It's saying yes, I'm most definitely up for if I can fit it in with my time and my schedule and everything that I've got going at the moment. But it's something, because I mostly deal with helping people from their stuck state and getting them to their desired state, or the past life regressions. But I used to do a lot of paranormal investigations at one time, and hypnosis never really came into it at all. We did have some people that were sensitive or mediums, but I think that with hypnosis you can do an awful lot, and also allow the spirit to show their face and see with either an individual or group of people what the spirit actually looks like, and then comparing it after, or somebody who's venue it is, then looking into it after and saying, is there any records of somebody who looks like that? So there's many sorts of things. Open up psychometry would be another thing to somebody who's not anywhere gifted in that field as well, psychometry. So basically I'll let people say, could you try this? And I would then say if I think it's possible or not. But even if it's not totally possible, as long as it's not going to cause anybody any harm, I'm always willing to see where we go with it.
Whereabouts are you based, Paul?
Gloucester, in Gloucestershire. So it's near, you think the map kind of, it's about an hour's drive to Bristol. So it's a bit sort of further up. It's kind of very close to Wales as well. Wales is just over the border.
Nando's taking a trip off. Look at his face.
No. Do you know what? I'm actually thinking, because if you're near Wales, we're actually heading to Wales at the end of the month.
Excellent.
And we're going to be investigating Margam Castle for 2 nights.
Sounds good.
And I'm just thinking, if I can make something work with Paul, maybe bring him on one of the nights, and maybe see if we can put this hypnosis and put it into and document it, and then maybe we could do a follow-up show if we can make something work, and we could, if you're happy to, but show people what had happened with what you're doing in an investigation. I just think that would be great.
It sounds great.
And see what happens.
I've got a couple of people that are interested in that, so yes, definitely, and we'll discuss that over
definitely
text messages, see if we can make that work.
And then we're going to fly you over to Ireland, Paul. We're going to take a trip of you over to Ireland as well.
Sounds good.
That'll be great. What I will do is I'm going to put up Paul's links on the Shadow Whispers in the Night page, on my Emerald Isle Paranormal Researchers page as well. So if you want to get in contact with Paul, and then you can have a wee chat and see. But I will be contacting you, Paul, because I need to find who am I? Who do you think you are, kind of thing. Who do you think you are? I become a bell. And Nando, I'll probably speak in more fluent Italian.
Absolutely.
I better brush up on my Italian then.
It's not happened to me in a regression yet. Most of the time, and it's what happened to me when I did this sort of thing as well. But is that you can understand the words, but you don't understand it. You can't really sort of interpret it. You hear the words, but it's a little bit like you've got an Italian film on. You just saying, now what exactly did they say? You would get nearish it, but you wouldn't be able to get it exactly right.
Yeah.
But some hypnotists have had it where somebody is saying, talking in a completely different language, you'll be able to. So that's something which I haven't experienced yet, and I don't think it happens too often under hypnosis, but it does happen, and it's more compelling if the person can speak in that language and they don't know any other languages, or they don't know that particular language.
That's it. Like I said earlier, it's like when I listen to the Italian language, and the accent is not like different to me. I know it, but I don't know what they're saying. And my favorite movies is Goodfellas, and anything got to do with the mafia. I'm sorry, I love all of it. Maybe I was in the mafia. You never know.
You might have, yeah, maybe.
I watched Goodfellas more times than I think they'd even forget their own scripts, and I could fill them in what they were going to say next.
Absolutely. Write down your experience from your past life, and we'll send it in for a good Hollywood movie next
like,
time.
No, was Jenny in the Italian mafia? We don't know. We should find out, but that's so interesting. We're going to come off now. Paul, I want to say a million thank you for coming on tonight and giving us your time. It was such an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show.
Absolutely. It's lovely to see you both again, because I've seen Nando before on another podcast live. So it's wonderful to be chatting to you both again in a live.
It's a pleasure.
It's always nice, and you just have a good vibe and a great vibe.
Thank you.
It's always nice talking to you, especially where you can find out in depth what's going on in the mind with the stuff that you do. I just think it's fascinating. And I think the next stage for me, I would love to see you in person, actually doing it, and seeing it for real. Do you know what I mean? I've never, done anything like it before, and I just think it would be great. Do you know what? If I'm on it, I'll be a bit scared to do it myself, but I'll put my wife forward for it.
Right, okay. Well,
I think it'd be great.
I've done this loads of times, and nobody's ever said it was a horrible experience, even when you take them through to a death experience, even if the person gets a bit emotional at certain times. I make sure I do all the healing afterwards. And I've never had...
getting emotional.
I've never ever had anybody who said that was awful afterwards. And for most people, they found if there is any tears, it is like the release as well, and find it quite a healing process.
I'm looking forward to doing it. That's it.
I don't think it would be a bad. I think for me personally, I would be scared of certain things coming out that would make me emotional. I think that's what my thing is. But do you know what? You never know until you try it. So I'll definitely give it a go. But no, it's always great talking to you, Paul. And definitely would love to catch up and then hopefully actually do something in person with you. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Really good. Yeah, thank you.
And then we're dragging your arse over to Ireland.
Yeah, okay. I love that. I've only been to Ireland once. That was with this past trip. Yeah, and I really loved it. We were.
Which past did you go to?
Well, we did move around a bit. So we were in Dublin for a while. We were just outside of Dublin in a youth hostel. I mean, it was pretty much just Dublin, but just outside. But we also went to Dingle as well. I spent some time in Dingle. So I like Dingle. We didn't see Dingle the dolphin, but we were. No, I didn't do that. But yeah, we were in Dingle.
That dolphin has gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was some years ago that the Dingle was there.
I haven't been up to Dingle myself, but I've always wanted to go up and see him, but I never did, and I forget his name.
Amazing place.
Send your mum my love. I hope to see her again soon.
Yes, I will do. Yes, I most certainly will do. Yeah.
Tell your mum, I remember when your mum, when we were talking at the dinner table, and she's saying I had such a lovely soft voice. And I'm like, you should hear me shout.
Well, she likes the paranormal, so I'm sure she'll go to other power meets. So I'll just make sure she doesn't upset you then. So if you don't shout at her.
No, Jason, not at all. But she was lovely. But tell her I sent her my love, and I hope to see her again very soon in October as well. Iron Fire, have a great weekend, everybody. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Questions, commenting, if you shared, thank you so much. And Paul, again, a million thanks for giving your time out, because I know you've been busy since you got back and so on. But thank you so much, and we will definitely catch up soon. Nando, thank you for being in here tonight with me again.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. We're going to bring you into the background, and everyone, thank you. Good night, and have a fantastic weekend and a safe weekend.
Bye,
everyone.
Bye.